In Inquiry 10.2, we're going to look at some of your genetic traits. And so this lab is called Making It More Personal. So the question for this lab is, what determines the traits that offspring will have? So what determine the traits that you would have from your parents? For our hypothesis, I believe that blank controls an offspring's traits because blank. So you can fill in these blanks with what you think controls the traits of an offspring and because why. The materials for this lab are found on page 161. The procedures for this lab are found on page 165 to 168. Okay, first we're going to take a look at some of the genetic traits that you might have. And those traits are if you're a tongue roller or not, if you have a widow's peak or not, if you have hanging earlobes or not, and if you can taste a certain bitter taste. Now, those of you that are at home and are watching this video and doing this assignment from home, you will not be able to do the bitter taste part because you will not have the taste test strips to use. But you can participate by doing the tongue roller, widow's peak, and hanging earlobes. So let's take a look at our assignment. I attached pictures here from the textbook that will show you how to determine if you can roll your tongue. And the type of tongue rolling that I'm talking about here is where you can make your tongue in like a U shape. If you can roll your tongue in this manner, then you have the dominant gene for tongue rolling. And so if we take a look at our lab report, if you're a tongue roller, you're going to mark that you have the dominant trait. So you can put an X or a check mark or highlight this box here. If you cannot roll your tongue in that U shape, then you would be recessive for the trait. So you would mark the box here. Okay, the second trait is widow's peak. So if you look at this example here, if your hairline goes in even a small V shape at all, then you would have a widow's peak. Some people have a more pronounced V shape right there than others. If your hairline just goes straight across with no V shape, then you have no widow's peak. So if you do not have someone that can look at that for you, then you can look at your phone, take a picture of your hairline, or you could look in a mirror to judge that for yourself. But if you have a widow's peak, it will be in a bit of a V shape here. Even if it's just a little V shape, then that's still a widow's peak. But if your hairline is straight like this, then you have no widow's peak. So back to your lab report on your data table. If you have the widow's peak, then that is a dominant trait, and you would mark this box. If you have no widow's peak at all, then you would mark the little w in this box. Okay, and then the third trait that we're looking at is your earlobes. Okay, if you have hanging earlobes, then this bottom part right here is loose from the side of your head. If you have attached earlobes, then your earlobe comes straight down and attaches straight into your face here. But if you have that lobe that hangs down at all, then that is called hanging earlobes. So you can see here in this example the difference there. If you can't judge that for yourself, then get someone at home to help you to figure out if you have hanging earlobes or attached earlobes. And so on your chart, if you have hanging earlobes, then that is the dominant trait, so you would mark this box. If you have the attached earlobes, that is recessive, so you would mark the little H box. Now, if you're at home, you can't do the bitter taste, that's okay, just skip the bitter taste part of the box. Okay, if we continue on with our lab report, whatever traits you got up here for being dominant for these or recessive, we're going to take those down here to this chart. So if you have, for the first trait, if you have the tongue roller trait, then you would put big R here Or if you choose to use the heterozygous, you can put big R, little r, but put one R here, the other R here. Okay, if you are looking at the second trait was for widow's peak. Oops, sorry. So you would put, if you have a widow's peak, you'd put big W here, or you could put a big W here and a little w here. If you do not have the widow's peak at all, then of course you'd put little w, little w. Okay, then the next line for the hanging earlobes, if you have hanging earlobes, then you put big H, or you could put big H, little h. If you have attached earlobes, then you of course would put little h here. Now for the tongue, or for the taste testing, since you didn't get to do that, I'll just let you guess. If you think you can taste the bitter taste on the test strip, then put big T here, or you can put big T, little t for the taste. If you did not taste it at all, you would put the little t, little t. It's very rare for someone to not taste the bitter taste. So on this chart, whatever you put on this chromosome, copy that same exact combination of letters onto this chromosome and this chromosome. Whatever you have on this chromosome here, you will copy to this chromosome and this chromosome. And then you will come on down on the chart. Whatever is on this chromosome comes straight down here to chromosome 1. Whatever's on this chromosome copies straight on down to chromosome 2. Whatever is on this chromosome copies to chromosome 3. And whatever you placed on this chromosome copies to chromosome 4. And this, in this example, represents what traits the sperm cells would carry. Okay, if we keep on going, those of you at home would not have a partner from class to use traits from, so you can just use your traits again. Again, you would copy those traits onto the chromosomes and carry them down the page. Now, those of you at home will not have one of the spinners like we'll be using in class. I'm going to go to the textbook so I can show you what the spinner looks like. Let me go back a couple of pages here. Okay, the spinner I'm talking about looks like this right here. It has a 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the middle, and then around the outside rim it has whether it's homozygous or heterozygous. Okay, so if you're at home, since you don't have the spinner, I want you to get 2 coins. It could be 2 pennies, 2 quarters, 2 dimes, 2 nickels. It doesn't matter. Just get 2 coins. Okay, we're going to say that homozygous recessive is if you, or number 4, would be if you toss the coins and both coins land on tails. That would be homozygous recessive or a number 4. If you have your coins and one lands on heads and one lands on tails, then that would be heterozygous. And so that would be a number 1 or a number 3. If your coins both land on heads, then that would be homozygous dominant, and that would be a number 2. So if you're at home and have to use coins, then you can use those coins instead of the spinner that way. Okay, so if you spin or toss your coins and you get a 1, then you would write your chromosomes in this example of this egg cell here. A fertilized egg is what it would represent. If you land a number 2, you would put that in this box. If you land a 3, you would put those traits in this box, or I'm sorry, this circle. And if you land a number 4, you would put those traits in this circle. Okay? And so whichever one of those, that 1, 2, 3, or 4, whichever one of those you landed on for your male and your female, that is what traits the offspring in this lab would have. Okay, if we scroll on down, you have a few analysis questions. And then you have your vocabulary words that you can look up in the glossary in the back of the book. If they happen to not be in the glossary in the back of the book, then you do have permission to look them up online, but please make sure that any definition you choose is appropriate to use for this lab and applies to the concepts taught in this lab today. Then the last step you would take is to write your conclusion. Your conclusion should state what traits the offspring would have, or why the offspring would have traits that are from their parents. So what determines the traits the offspring have? It would be the traits that the parents have. Whatever traits you inherit from your parents will be the traits that you have. So your combinations simply come from the traits that your parents have. So in your conclusion, make sure you summarize that.